TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly, dark savage.
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff.
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah Podcast. And as always, I'm excited and delighted to be with you guys, man. We got an awesome show planned for you. Really good discussion. We're going to get deep. We're going to be talking about spiritual healing, energy healing, entrepreneurship. There's a bunch of you guys stepping out for the first time and looking for a blueprint, looking for a path on how you can step out and do the things that you love for a living. And most of you guys, in some shape or form, are interested in spiritual healing. And you're already a healer. You've been trained your entire life. You've been groomed by the universe, by your guides, by your ancestors to be on earth for such a time as this. So when it comes to stepping into your potential, stepping into your destiny, you need some practical steps. Listen, we're going to go over all of that today. My guest is really trained in all of this stuff and leads by example. So it's going to be really good. Let us know if you have any questions or comments there in the chat for the live stream, and I will relate those over to the guest here in a little while. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody listening to this podcast live, everybody's joining the chat, no matter where you're listening, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you are, man. Go ahead and leave a comment and a like and let me know where you're listening from. And make sure you share this out. Somebody needs to hear this. Make sure you share it out on your social feeds as well. We are listener supported, listener funded. This show doesn't exist without your help. And I want to say a huge thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all of you people who believe in this great work that I'm doing, this podcast, my music, everything that I'm bringing to the table. You guys have financially partnered and got backed this. You guys are co-creators. It doesn't exist without your help. And whatever good that I'm doing with this platform, you guys share in that, I believe, when you do that. So thank you guys for partnering with the vision and helping me continue to bring these beautiful episodes to the table. If you'd like to support, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music. Speaking of, White Magic just came out on the 6th, so it's only been out a couple days and getting really good feedback. So make sure you go check that out, run those numbers up. But most of you who've been supporting on Patreon had access to those songs as soon as they were done, like a year ago, a lot of them, if not more. So as soon as I get done with a song, I upload them there and get feedback and critique and all that good stuff from my community on Patreon. So you get access to some really cool stuff. My music before it's released to the general public. Guided meditations are there at a certain level. School of the Mystics that we're now doing the last Thursday of every month. It was every week. Now we're doing it the last Thursday of every month. We are continuing to do the breath work and prayer and meditation on Sunday mornings too. And you get access to that for a specific level as well. So go check it out. Bunch of really cool stuff. I tried to put as much cool stuff on there as I can to make it worth your while. Listen, there's over 200 songs, my book, bunch of cool stuff. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. What else we got going on? We have a retreat coming up November the 20th with myself and Illuminati Congo. For those of you who are interested in that, those are amazing. We're going to be doing a cacao ceremony, Kundalini yoga, guided meditations, stargazing, you name it. We just spend the day out in nature together and spend the night together and connecting with like-minded individuals in the flesh, in person. It's just been amazing. Being able to meet people for the first time, people driving and flying from across country, and they get out of their vehicles and we meet and we hug, and people who's been in these chats for years. And then we host an event like this and they show up and we finally get to meet. It's been amazing. So there's only a couple seats left. It is November the 20th, Reset, Refresh, and Renew with myself, TruthSeekah, and Illuminati Congo. Go to truthseekah.com to get the info on that. You'll see the flyer when you go to the website. Now, without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and jump into today's episode. My guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is Amanda Monnier. Amanda, welcome to the TruthSeekah Podcast, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Truth. Thank you so much. I'm great. I'm super excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me on the show.
Thanks for coming on. Did I do justice with the last name, Monnier? Is that it?
Yeah, so my family, I believe it's Monnier. So
Okay.
Yes, my family's from Nebraska. So they added a little little country twang, and now we say Monnier. So either way works.
Monnier. Okay. Well, I got pretty close anyway. Well,
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
I'm excited for the talk. I mean, what you bring to the table is right up our alley for the conversations that we have on this podcast, and even what I've been doing is training a lot of energy healers. So to get you on here, be able to pick your brain, what goes through your mind, what does the energy feel like get specific on some stuff. I think the little nuances help people to get confident and know that they've been tapped in for a very long time. So I just really love to explore that and hear your story and your transition, I would say, into this. And we're gonna cover all that. But again, welcome to the show. For people who don't know who you are, what you bring to the table, just give a brief overview of who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, so I am an energy healer and mindset coach, which with everything going on in the world, things change so rapidly. So sometimes I'm like, I don't even know anymore, but it's a good thing. So yeah, I work with people at a level where it's really all about the person. So I take no credit for anything. I'm simply a guide and a mentor, because really this journey is personal to each individual person. And it's truly just about you. It's about this remembrance of who you are at that soul level, beneath all of the programming, all of the conditioning, and all of the things, all the lies, really. And so it's just such a powerful time on this planet right now, because so many of us are remembering who we really are. And in the way that we continue to raise the vibration of the planet is just bringing our own unique soul frequency, just unleashing that to the planet, because it's just a beautiful thing when everybody's living from that heart-centered truth. And so that's really my mission, at least here and now. What I've been guided to step into is just being that guide and that mentor for people who are kind of in those places where they're like, okay, as I was at one point, where I'm like, gosh, this can't be all there is to life. This can't be it. These feelings I'm having, and maybe these cyclical patterns I'm noticing show up in my life, and the different emotions and pain points and things, it's not something that's meant to last forever, but there are different lessons and things along the journey that really help us grow into what we came here to experience. And so that's unique to everybody. So it's been an amazing journey and an interesting last year for me, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk a little bit about the last year and your transition, because you were in law enforcement and now you were a full-time in law enforcement. Now you're a full-time energy healer. How does that come about? How does the universe get your attention, and how does that transition work?
Yeah, I was a probation officer. I was in about 6 years. I was a probation officer, and different things. It was definitely part of my training and where I was supposed to be for that period of time. So I did that, and a couple years into where I had a spiritual awakening, if you will. I had kind of hit rock bottom in some certain areas of my life to where I was noticing these patterns, and specifically in relationships, I was noticing these patterns. And there was a breakup that happened in my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, like here I am just like feeling like completely helpless and in this rock bottom moment, to where all of, like, for me, like my core wounding that I've been continuously peeling back the layers on is all around abandonment. And so I had continued to show up, and it was like this moment where I was like, okay, I clearly don't have all the answers to do it on my own. So I need some help. I need some guidance from there. I know there's a greater force than me. I didn't quite know what that looked like, but I was just in this place where I just started digesting everything I could related to spirituality. I was, any like books I could get my hands on, any courses, things like that. And then as I've evolved on my journey, I've been able to kind of see that really, like, if we do go within, we know way more than we think we know. It's just sometimes the avoidance of those deep wounds and the, externalization of like, oh, maybe this can help and this can help, when it actually the easiest and sometimes the, I guess, solution, if you will, is to just go within and to feel those things and not necessarily attach meaning to them. But if everything is energy, then we can just tune into these things that come up and look at these circumstances as gifts versus like as something that the world is doing to us. It can actually be, wow, no, this is actually working out for me. Because if it comes down to like everything that comes up, we can choose how we respond. Like we don't have control over everything that goes on, but we do have that control over what we choose and how we choose to respond to things. And so really just getting to this place to where I was like, okay, I don't have all the answers, and my need for control isn't working anymore. And so I had really, in the last like several years I was in my career in law enforcement, I was like, I just didn't feel aligned anymore. And it was aligned at one point in time for me to where I was like, oh my gosh, I love this career, I'll never leave. And then later down the line, it didn't feel aligned. And so that's one thing that I've really come to notice is like, is really like that soul, like that guidance and that intuition piece on, we know within ourselves and our gut and our heart, if something is aligned, or if we're still holding on to something that's hit its expiration date when we're being called to let go. And so I had been guided to let go of this career I had. Sometimes it was one of those things too, where people are like, you're nuts. This is a career people work their whole lives to get. Like it's stable, if you will, by at least society standards, but it just wasn't cutting it. Like my soul just couldn't handle it anymore. And so I actually had sidestepped over to work with my family in the business, because I was like, okay, well, at least this will get me out of law enforcement. And then a couple months later, the universe was like, yeah, no, that's not what we were talking about. It was really just me sidestepping my mission work and my purpose work that I was guided to step into. And actually, there were things that served its purpose stepping into the family business. And so I actually had quit that several months in. My home was in escrow because I was going to be moving to open up a new branch with my brother of the company. So I'm sitting in my car, my home's in escrow. I had just like walked off the job because I was like, every time I walked in there, a piece of my soul died. It was just like, it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with anybody else. It had everything to do with me and what I was being guided into my next step to really come to this place of surrender. So I had quit my career. I quit my now job. My home I'm going to be homeless in 20 days. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I took a deep breath and I'm like, this is all going to work out. And then I ended up moving. I picked up and I moved because I'm like, well, now, I could do anything that I want. And so I started my energy healing business. So that's the condensed version of the last year, but it's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm just hearing, just by seeing the work that you're bringing to the table. And as you give that overview, like I see where a lot of your blogs and a lot of your ideas and your training and stuff comes from, it's from mapping out your own healing, obviously. And you're able to help other people and take them through that process and teach them how to get those answers, teach them how to transmute the energy, pay attention to signs and stuff in their life. One of the things you mentioned about the job, but you know, you got what seems to be like a good job, but then when something like it serves its purpose and time is up, like for other people don't know that. They just see you come into work and you're good at what you do and you've been doing it for a long time and this is what's normal, but within you're going through this transformation. You're like, man, I'm not supposed to be here anymore. I'm not going to be here any longer. It's a weird place when we get to those situations because you end up feeling trapped, right? You're talking about you had to show up, but a piece of you like died. And that's no situation anybody wants to be in, a relationship, a job, and many people are there right now. That's why we're going over this. But I'm sure at some point your job was something that you looked forward to, like you said, and something you prayed about, right? I feel like my job, I was in a very similar situation of being called to do this stuff. And I felt like I was complaining of something that I prayed about. Like I asked for this job. I asked God, I asked the universe to give me a pay raise. Let me do something that's not what I was doing. And so when I got into it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm happy making more money and I enjoy my job. But it's like, once it served its purpose, I'm starting to complain about this. So there's this weird place in that transition of like, even though a part of me is dying, like I have to find gratitude. And it's almost like when you're able to do that, then those doors open up for you to step into that next process. Can you talk a little bit about that at all? Just like, you know, when you were on the brink or whatever, and you were there, but mentally, spiritually, you weren't, and you knew you wasn't supposed to be there. Like, what did that feel like getting ready to make that transition?
Yeah, to be honest with you, like the last year or so, like I kind of became pretty cynical at my job at the production department because it wasn't aligned anymore. And I was just like, it was very hard for me to even go to that place of gratitude because part of the things I was really struggling with is, and this was almost like that externalization, right? Is like the going in and being told what to do today. Like from any time I'm gonna eat my lunch, or I'm like, wait, what? Like I have to ask if I can get a cup of coffee. Like, and it wasn't like that bad, but like in my mind, I was just like, I shouldn't have to ask to have a day off. Like all these things started to kind of roll through my mind. I'm like, for at least for me, like this is not how I want to choose to create my life. Like I want to be able to manage my schedule, but still be of service and bring massive impact. And there were just things where I just saw almost like the holes in the treatment system as well, to where it's like, I dealt with people who had a lot of mental health issues. Yeah. And there would be court orders for these people to go to NA or AA and even treatment centers where it would be like, hey, I actually worked with the homeless for the last several years of my career. And it would be like, okay, you're going to do 30 days in residential treatment. And then we would just have nowhere to put them afterward. And I'm like, so it was getting very frustrating for me. And even though it's like, I can see it from a different perspective now, but where I was at the time, I was like, I just can't do this anymore because I just was having a hard time with the tools and the things that were given to us as interventions and to help with rehabilitation. And so I was like, there has just got to be better tools as far as the energy work and things that I got into, because I actually hid in the spiritual closet for many years. Like my coworkers didn't know this side of me, because in that whole arena, it would have been something where it would have, at least this was my own stuff, where I was like, oh, I'm going to be judged and thought of as this weird woo-woo person. So I hid that part of me for so long. And that was part of my own insecurities that I eventually overcame, as far as really just getting to that place where I was shining my own light and allowing my own authentic soul frequency to come out in those ways, to where it was it didn't really matter what anybody else thought, because I was living in my truth. Yeah. And so it was definitely a powerful place to get to. And now I can look at it kind of from a different perspective on, this experience was actually a gift and was part of my training. And it served its purpose when it was meant to. And I left when I was meant to. And again, it's this piece around surrender, I found to be such a powerful thing, because the ego and the unconscious mind does everything it can do to keep us safe. Even if it's something to where we know what's coming, but we know it's not good for us, the ego and the unconscious still wants to, because it's that pattern, and patterns equal safety to us. And so when we're going outside and we're looking, like, let's say we're like looking out on this cliff, this wide open space, and all the opportunities are endless. We can literally create anything we want. We can choose anything we want. But there's this uncomfortability in surrender and in the unknown that scares a lot of us. And believe me, I completely get it because I've been there. But there's also something so beautiful about being able to be in this place of surrender, because that's where, when we let go, that's where the flow can happen. And that's where, because the way I kind of explain it is, when we have our higher self, or that higher perspective of us. Some people refer to it higher self, super conscious, whatever resonates. And then we have our own connection to our own unique connection to source, God, universe. And so it's like, when we can learn to trust that connection to the universe, to God, to source, and still create from that higher self perspective, that unique perspective, it definitely shifts everything, rather than creating from the unconscious and the ego, which is kind of what we've been conditioned to do, because we're not really getting random stuff. When we think we're getting random stuff, we're really actually just on autopilot, manifesting in our unconscious. So it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, it's like the knob is on default, and you're at this job because you put in an application, something happened, but it's like, man, I didn't have anything to do with this. I just ended up here, and it's not good. So let me try to use those same tools that got me in a place of like, hey, now I need to change where I'm at. And let me be conscious of my decisions and what I want for myself. Everything is a string of decisions. Like, I look at it like, we talk about other timelines that exist, but I talk about that, but I'm like, every version of yourself exists, like out there somewhere. And whether it's woo-woo or not, but it's like, hey, if those are strings or patterns or whatever of this version of you, and you're a couple decisions away from that thing being a reality of you being on that path. And so just like on default, and you're at this job or wherever, relationships, and everything's not going good, there's things that you can do in your life to position yourself to step into that other timeline. Like you said, all things are possible to them that believe it. First of all, you got to believe it, and then try it, and then step into it. Studying like you did, you got all these spiritual books and training yourself, and essentially going to school. I would call it the invisible college that we all are in. But you manifested it. And I know it was something that seemed so far away at the time, when it was like a thought, like, hey, I'm going to do this. What were some of the things that came up that said no? Because like, when you're like, hey, I'm going to be a healer, there's family's going to laugh at me. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. I'm not good enough. I still need healing myself. So how can I heal anyone? What are some of the things when you were making that transition that came up that said no, which is the ego trying to save you from ridicule and, hey, this is safe over here. Stick with this job. It has good pension, those kind of things. What were some of the thoughts that came to you?
Yeah, I think it was more when I left the family business, because when I left my job in law enforcement, I had that security net of knowing, okay, I'm going to go transition into like the known. So when I left working with my family for that short period of time, it was the moment I can remember. I was sitting in my car. It was a moment where I had never felt so free, but I had also was like, what did I just do? It was like, excuse me, a combination of freedom and like this, like terrified, like, oh no, like, cause it is that unknown. I'm like, I actually at one point I was like, you know what, I'm going to move to South Carolina. Like I lived in California my whole life. And so it was even like, I took this to like the whole like free spirit, like furthest extent. I had hired movers and like signed a lease in South Carolina. And one of my friends was like, Amanda, you have time to go check it out. Why don't you go? You've never been there. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. She's like, go check it out. Like you have time. So I went out there And I checked it out and I was like, I'm very sensitive to energy. Like I feel things so deeply. So I got there and I was like, oh no, like, I'm so glad I went and checked this out. Like this is not where I'm supposed to be.
Oh,
And so I backpedaled and I actually still ended up moving to Southern California where I was going to be moving with the family business. It was just under different circumstances. And so there were things I went through when I did get here initially in that first month. Like there was one day where I had finished work around 3:00 and I had this immense amount of guilt rush over me that I was like supposed to like keep working till 5, but I was like done for the day because I had never experienced that before. Because we think of like, you know, going into like my job as a probation officer, even if you have nothing to do, you sit at your desk until 5, like you figure something out, or you just sit there because, you know, you're on the clock, like to some degree they are. And I mean, I think, you know, obviously there's certain things that are necessary, but some of the stuff that has been created as far as like these templates on the planet is like kind of a modern day slavery template. Because think about it, you're sitting in a little box, you got fluorescent lights coming over you, it's dark, and you're literally just sitting there like pounding away at the keys all day. And unless it lights your heart and soul up, unless it inspires
exactly right.
Like, you know, because there are some people that maybe they cleaning, you know, being a janitor, it's like it lights the world up. And that's the difference here. So when you're going in and it's almost like you're living this like lie, but part of the process is figuring that out. So there was an analogy that really sat with me, because sometimes a lot of us we try to force things. And that's something where I've even learned through this journey and even just being a mentor, that it's not my job to tell anybody what to do. I will never tell anybody what to do. I'm simply a guide. Because if you think about it at a foundational level, you have a baby that's crawling and you keep trying to pick the baby up and force it to walk before it's like ready. You're taking away those learning lessons and those pieces. Especially, it's different if someone comes to you like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, but when we insert ourselves into things and try to force things, that doesn't allow the natural process of evolvement, because we like to, as humans, label things as either good or bad or right or wrong, when maybe it's all just subjective on where you're at in your own journey and what you wanted to experience. Where maybe what I chose to experience was the other side of the coin this time around. And so it's not something like, it's not my job to be saying like this, and this is, you know, the way to do it. I've come across that before. And first of all, it doesn't feel great. And then it's taking away the opportunity for somebody to maybe learn some very significant lessons. And it's just a powerful thing to be in this place of trust and surrender, just allowing.
I think that one of the biggest things is like, we can tell people about this spirituality and we can, you know, talk about it on podcasts and stuff like that. But the most powerful thing is that you're showing people, you know, you're talking about, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Good. But you are showing people what to do, like what is possible. And that's the biggest thing, is because we learn by experience and we learn by watching others. So if you can do it, then I can do it. And that's what it is about coaching and helping people get from one place in their life to the next place that they want to be, that transition, that, you know, let them know that all things are possible again, and trying to find those steps to get there. You talked about going within, right? To get the answers. What does that look like for you, and how do you teach people to do that process? Because a lot of us go to Google for answers, and there's some answers that are there, but there's a lot of answers that aren't on Google, and we have like direct access to it, whether people want to call it the Akashic or whatever. It's very strange. Is there a practice that you have to go in to get that answer, to get downloads, to what is my next move and those kind of things? What is the practice that you do?
Yeah. And I want everybody listening to know too, is even if you think you can't, like it is something like you know what's best for you better than anybody else. Like you 110% know. So it is one of the things that has been significant for me. And especially with like, things are moving at a very accelerated pace right now. And October is just another October, the energies of October. I haven't felt anything like this in a long time. It almost feels like nothing's moving, but yet everything's moving. Wow. And so as far as one thing that I have found is when stuff is going on, and I use two words, either activating or triggering you, and you're having this reaction in your body, And the first thing that oftentimes, and I've done this many times myself, that we want to do is we want to react. We want to displace what's going on inside of us and assign it some meaning, and either say, well, you did this to make me feel this some sort of way, or this is going on and this validates why I'm feeling some sort of way. But all that does, it actually perpetuates the pattern and reinforces the pattern. So one thing that I have found extremely powerful, especially in this time of these energies in this month, and it is all about, when that does happen, taking a pause and maybe removing yourself from the situation and actually allowing whatever that is to bubble up. Because when we acknowledge that, that allows the power that had over you and your reactions to dissolve. And one thing that I have done, and this several days ago, something came up for me. It was around that fun little core abandonment wound. I'm like, gosh, I thought I was done with this one, but it popped up again. And I just sat on my couch and I was like, okay, like, God, universe, like I clearly, like, I need help with this one, because I thought that, it had been resolved, and clearly it hadn't, because this stuff is coming up. And so I sat with it for about an hour. I cried for about an hour, and I just asked, like, instead of trying to find something else to distract myself, or instead of trying to do something or to try to figure anything out, I just sat there for an hour. And it was very uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie. But the next day, like, I don't know if it's fully gone. I don't really need to know at this point, but it shifted majorly, because I just allowed it to have its voice and have its moment. And a lot of times too, this comes down to this. There can be several different things, but a lot of this, like, inner child trauma, because a lot of what we still carry with us, and we kind of talked about, like, the parallel timelines and things. Like, the way I kind of explain it is, what if all the timelines are just stacked upon each other, and you're just, like, experiencing the now, what you experienced in your past life. We don't need to, like, if past life regressions resonate or whatever you feel guided to do, that's perfect. But it's like a repeat pattern. So, or it's something that your soul really wanted to master in this lifetime. And so when this stuff comes up, it oftentimes is tied to those years between in the womb to about 7 years old, because we're so impressionable. Our brains are functioning in this theta brainwave. So we're like little sponges, and we're so sensitive. Children are so sensitive. They're so powerful. It's insane. And that's a whole nother topic about even the children that are, like, incarnating onto this planet right now. And we could have some fun conversations about all the stuff, the star seeds and all that. But it's just even acknowledging that part of you, because the thing is, typically what was happening for me in the moment with the catalyst, it had nothing to do with that person. It had everything to do with this repeat pattern and experience. And this still, clearly there was still some trauma there. It had everything to do with that core wound. And instead of, I spent a couple of weeks, like, trying to figure it out and doing that thing where, we play the victim a little bit, and we're like, why is this always happening to me? No, like, I shifted it and looked at it as, maybe this person just gave me, like, a giant gift. If I can choose to see this as a gift, and I can choose to see this as something that is here to help me see this part of myself that's ready to be healed, because that's what's happening here in October, is all the lies. And we can see it on the world stage, and we can see it internally. So there's two things going on here. We have this internal piece that is our work, specifically our work. And that's why, if you're feeling really uncomfortable, you're feeling a lot of these things come up where you're like, oh gosh, I thought I healed this. You're being guided and called to heal it at a deeper level right now, because the truth and lies cannot coexist together. And where we are moving into this golden age, because I believe it, 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, we went from here to here. I don't even think our brains can fully wrap our heads, or we cannot wrap our heads around where we're headed, because it's magical. It's great. It's amazing. It's why we're here.
Yeah.
But the part of that, the lies and the density cannot coexist with where we're going. And that's also, again, what's happening on the world stage. It may seem like everything's falling apart, but if we can actually choose to see it as all the truth is just coming to the surface, because all the lies are coming to the surface, then we can actually shift it. It's like, you can call it a dark night of the soul. You can call it, the trauma wounds coming up, whatever you kind of want to label it as. We don't even have to label it, but it is happening right now. And it's happening at this pace to where the amount of information coming in, the amount of light coming in it's why it's rapid fire. It's like, okay, like sometimes I'm like, wait, I feel like I just lived 10 lifetimes in like 4 hours because that's what's happening right now.
It's crazy. I'm reminded of a term that we heard, draining the swamp. Like we heard that, we thought it was going to be done on a political stage, but it's like it's being done within our hearts and within the depths of our soul. Really interesting. Amanda, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. I want to double down on some of the stuff you said about remembering. What does it mean to remember? And the purpose of these triggers. We're going to go in a little bit deeper and about how we can follow them to step into our life's purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right after this.
Elementals are different. Elementals are really strange. I've seen elementals. I've had one-on-one experience with elementals. I don't know exactly what they are. All I know is what to call them. But I've had incidents where I have been in the company of elementals. They're spirit creatures, like fairies, and the Irish are very big on talking about the different fairies and the different magical little creatures. Leprechauns, I have seen gnomes and leprechauns. And fairies, these are what we call the elementals. They are legitimately life forms, but they don't live in the world you do. They live in a different kind of world, an elemental world. But we call them the elementals. It's quite a subject. Life outside of being a human. What is life like in the spirit world? And that's what you're talking about in your book.
I explore these concepts and more in my new book, Spirit Realm: Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Forward by Jordan Maxwell. Available now at TruthSeekah.com.
Hi folks, I'm Santos Bonacci and I'm now tuned in to The Awakening. Music is one of the most powerful expressions of truth that we have. It is a very powerful consciousness expander and a great medium for transmitting truth. Check out the work of TruthSeekah at TruthSeekah.com for some great and powerful consciousness expanding music.
Self-medicated, I was contemplating psilocybin. I know they hate it, but Mother Nature prescribed it. Look within while meditating in silence. Step into the inner core, either through the iris.
Aloha. Aloha to you. That's what's good. Thank you. TruthSeekah says, what's up? What's up? TruthSeekah and myself, we had a deep-ass conversation. It was a long-ass time ago. I smoked one. I went off. I went crazy.
The TruthSeekah Podcast, it's the best podcast. I mean, it really is. I've heard it, and his is the best. They debunked the prophecies saying, I was your president. I'm not. I'm really not. But keep listening, and you will learn something cool. I'm sure of it, like really sure.
Bar $20 to the mall.
You're listening to the TruthSeekah Podcast. Now, back to the show.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Amanda Monnier. You mentioned remembering. We're on this journey of remembering. Can you explain that a little bit? What are we remembering, and how do we do that?
Yeah, so we are in the process, at least I can speak from personal experience, about remembering who we are at that deep heart and soul level, our own divinity, our own connection to God and source, and that uniqueness that is within us, and what we are meant to bring to the planet to really make this a better place and to raise the vibration of the planet. So, and to choose love over fear. And I also want to point out too, that we are conscious creators. So we are manifesting in every moment, because if everything is energy, then it's like everything in our external world is just a representation of what we got going on inside. And so how we can remember is if it's all about remembrance, and we never lost it. That's the thing. Like you never have to like find anything, because it's always there. It's always within you. It's just covered up by this density, again, kind of going back to these, it can be anything from ancestral stuff, like the generational trauma can get passed down in the DNA and the cells, and it gets, I liken them to energetic software programs. And we constantly update our phones and our computers, but we can actually do this with our own human body and really tap into some of these things that just don't serve us anymore, because your emotions are your compass. So if you have a lot of dense, heavy emotions going on and you're constantly feeling those, that's a good indicator that there's something to be let go of. And if you're in the flow and you can feel this expand, like it's kind of like that contrast between expansiveness and feeling contracted. And when we're feeling contracted more than not, it's probably because we have this dense energy that's within us. And so there are there's all kinds of different ways, and there's no one size fits all to this. That's why we're all kind of guided to different mentors or different practices, different things that can help us, because for some people, it might be sitting through a yoga class. It might be sitting through a breathwork class. For others, it might be sitting in silent meditation, allowing it to come up. For others, it might be doing like some reprogramming work and rewiring of the brain. Like there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just like the first step is acknowledging what's going on. Okay, I'm feeling this I'm feeling this thing, and I want to choose something else. And that's even something so powerful is even just in that moment, just choosing what it is that you want to create from that place of you just would love to have it, that heart and soul connection, connecting with that part of you. And it might feel a little uncomfortable at first, because if you haven't ever connected to your higher self or to that part of you, that higher aspect that is within. So if you think of it as like we live in this quantum field, and if every possibility is possible, you can really reach into the quantum and pull out what it is you want to experience in this lifetime. And typically what you have an affinity for and what you want to experience is something that is within that soul blueprint. And again, you can't get it wrong. Like this is like almost like a master class for souls in us coming here, because of the density we're transcending, and we're raising our frequency, raising our vibration. And even some of the little things that have come through for me, we're changing our very DNA, because our DNA has been so spliced over the years through different modification instruments, whether it be radiation or the things we consume, or even the things we consume through television, the very DNA in the cells and things. It's why we even like the aging process, but actually all of that's reversing. It's really beautiful, because we're switching back to that template of the crystalline DNA and the DNA of like that of our light bodies. And really what ascension is our ability to hold more light. And so when we're holding more light, it's just the density, again, it can't sustain. And that's why you may feel like you haven't gotten a break in the last several months, is because of the amount of light coming in. It, again, can't coexist with this density. So it's just calling you to release all these things that are not in alignment with your true self, what you're here to do. And it plays out on all levels, because it's all one and the same. So if we have even the physical body, I do a lot of work around the physical body with people. If you have like pain in certain areas of the body is just trying to get your attention. Like that's probably been there for a hot minute. It's not something that appeared overnight. You got like, heaviness in the hip, or you have maybe like infertility issues or something like that. It can be tied to maybe something that it's time to take a look at, because it's not by accident and it didn't just happen. There's a deeper reason why these things are going on. And so really just getting to that place to where like starting to really trust yourself and your intuition. And it's like almost a muscle that it doesn't necessarily develop overnight. There are some people who have full access to their gifts, and some people it takes a little bit of practice to really start trusting yourself. Let's say you've spent 40 years and you've never really tapped into that aspect of you, to really start practicing. And one method that is one of the easiest ways is really just dropping your energy and focus into your heart space. because the heart, when you open up that heart gateway, that really gives you access into the soul and to your higher self quickly. Because when we're tapped in and when we're feeling love and we're tapped into love, love is a very high vibrational frequency. So we can tune into those things.
What is a attunement? That's one of the things that you offer in your sessions if the person needs it. So what is an attunement, and how does that fit in with maybe bringing into alignment that life's purpose, or finding love, or whatever it is? I know that those terms are associated with maybe getting an attunement. Can you explain a little bit more about what that process is and what that is?
Yeah. So it, again, like my process and my healing sessions are all guided by the higher self of the person I'm working with. And it's all what's coming through for them. So it's interesting, the last several months, a lot of what's been coming through is actually related to what I was chatting with you about, the DNA and this up leveling of the DNA. So like these attunements for like this new template of DNA and for the healing of the DNA, because what we're actually doing, as I kind of mentioned, is we're reverse aging. So I truly believe in the next handful of years, like it's going to continue. We're going to continue as a collective to raise our vibration. And we're actually this attunement, this DNA template that we're shifting into is really, really going to be like, I truly believe we're going to be living exponentially longer than we are now when we start to really get into healing these distortions in the energy body. So the distortions are just like the mutated genes and all the viruses and all the bacteria, because the viruses and the bacteria all resonate, and they're like Velcro to the frequencies of like guilt, shame, and unworthiness. So if you have all these energies trapped in your organs or your field, then you're literally, essentially, you're a magnet to these frequencies of the bacteria and the viruses and all things of that nature. So it's so fascinating how intertwined it is. And so it really just depends on what's meant to come through for that individual. But I do work with a handful of attunements and alignments that are like these packets of energy. And they can be anything from like 1 to 3 pages of instructions and they're encoded into like a single sentence, because we can actually create these packets of energy.
Wow.
And it's one of the modalities that I've been trained in. It's called Sacred Soul Alignments. And so it just really, really depends on what the person's ready for, because again, like it has to be coming from like the desire and the readiness to shift, because then if we're not coming from that place, then we're back in that stage where we're forcing things. And so there may be more lessons to learn, but oftentimes when someone comes and they're like, okay, like I keep having this come up around relationships or money, it's like, okay, usually it's like the soul is ready to, or the conscious awareness is, and we're ready to kind of transcend some of these things and these lessons, because we don't have to keep playing these painful patterns out on repeat. Again, it may be something so simple as just sitting with it for a moment and allowing that energy to release from the cells and the organs of the body. Because again, if we're getting activated, it's something that's getting activated and moving within us. And so if we can actually change, if we can't necessarily destroy energy, but we can change its form, then we can shift it either to the light, or we can shift it into something that's beneficial for us, rather than because if we think of vibration and frequency, like we have, guilt, fear, shame, like we can all agree that those don't feel so good. But if we have love and joy and peace, and we can actually change the form of these dense vibrations of energy, either that or transmute them back to the light, then we don't have to continue feeling them in our energy field.
It's interesting you say that. I'm just reminded of a couple things. When I was working on my program, one of my coaches was like, we're talking about energy healing, and I'm kind of making my own, I'm articulating my own tutorial, right? What I do, and then trying to find ways to articulate it to teach somebody else. I can show you, but if we were to put it in a workbook, and it was like, when that negative energy comes, we're going to send it into the fire, or we're going to send it into the dark. And he's like, no, you don't need to send it into the fire. Like, we don't need to destroy it or kill it or something like that. That's not what, because that energy has a purpose, and it can go somewhere. And just because it hindered you, it taught you so much, you were aware of a lot while it was there, and you're aware that now there's a contrast of what life could be like without it. So even if that's all it serves you with, like that's what it is. So trying to kill an energy or a demon, right? We have to personify the energy. We give it a name and we give it attributes, sometimes with what they look like and those kind of things. And it helps us to identify it, which a lot of this stuff is just linked to trauma and thoughts that we've created that won't leave. And so my coach was telling me that, and then I'm reminded even what you're saying just about like how Jesus, when he casted out demons, he didn't send them into the abyss and I destroy you right now. He's like, listen, you're not like, this energy was here. Now the energy is going to move somewhere else. I'm going to send it into these pigs. And he sent the energy into the pigs. And I think that if destroying it, or as if we even have the ability to do that, obviously if we looking at somebody who I think is a master healer, who led by example, like, listen, transmute the energy. We don't need you anymore. Somebody needs that. Like, that's a training wheel to say, hey, yeah, you need to go through some. This earth is a place where we can experience all of these emotions. I don't think that these emotions exist where we're going. I don't think that heartache exists there. I don't think that hatred and bitterness and wounding, and I don't think that exists. So even though it's uncomfortable to sit with it and even say thank you, maybe not to the person, but to the creator, to the source, for allowing me to experience it. I identify it. I notice it. I don't need it anymore. But thank you for allowing me to experience this, because it taught me so much. If we take that approach, we're not a victim anymore. We are not just on default. Like, we can change the way that we respond to everything. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. And that once we get that down, things change, man, for sure.
So true. So true. And it's so powerful too. I've even found, even to like go into this type of work, being an observer and not having to because we love, as humans, we just love to attach ourselves to things and assign all this meaning to it. And that's fine. But we don't actually, it can cause us more pain, and we don't have to choose that. And that's another thing that's so important, is we're so innately powerful to create our own reality. And when I say that, again, it's in that conjunction with God, with universe. I found it to be just so powerful, because because then it's like you're living from God's will versus living from your free will, human will. We have free will on the planet, but it's just so powerful to be in this space of this co-creation. And then we get to co-create with other humans. And it's just when we can just be an observer to things. And I've also found it to be something where I'll even ask, if something comes up, is this even mine? Is this mine? Or is this something that I took on from somebody else? Because I found that stuff is so easy to be like, okay, well, I'm good. I'm done. Thank you for this, but I'm okay. I don't choose to continue feeling this. With the ancestral trauma and stuff, I found that it just disappears instantly, versus these deeply rooted patterns that we've created in our childhood, or, whatever, adolescent years, what have you. But those ones can be a little bit more deeply rooted, and then getting to the seed point of conception of that wound versus trimming the leaves, because then it just continues to grow back. So
when I first started going through a session, I went through what we call a deliverance ministry in the Christian church years ago. And it was dealing with ancestral trauma, dealing with ungodly beliefs. And it was just, they gave me pamphlets to fill out, and it was cool because it brought stuff up. Like, have you ever thought these thoughts? Yeah, I've thought that, and so they got to take that pamphlet back and to get clear on where we're going to go with this session. And it was a long session. It was a span of a couple weeks, but it did me so much good. Every session I found so much freedom, and I believe in it because of my results and stuff, and I wanted it so bad, and they were just a catalyst to take me through that. But it birthed something in me to think that when I do healing with people, when I do a session for somebody, that it's going to take several weeks. It's going to and it makes it where I don't even want to bring it up, because it's because I know I charge for my time, and to really be committed, it's going to be hard. So it's I'm not even going to touch that stuff. But then it was like this epiphany that in like one session, you have the power to undo lifetimes of trauma in an hour session. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how does that make you feel when somebody experiences breakthrough and what we think is going to be something far away or something that we're becoming, we have the power to transmute and to step into it like instantly through these tools and things that you bring to the table, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the past, I would have kind of planned for sessions a little more than I do now. And now I show up and I'm like, okay,
tap
like
in.
Whatever is meant to come through today is going to come through. And I've had people that, obviously protecting privacy and whatnot, but that have like identified like deeply rooted like sexual trauma from, for example, like that was so repressed, that was creating this pattern. And like they came up with it, not me. I mean, I could feel it, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and be like, hey, what about this? What about this? Like I'll ask, I like to ask questions, even if I already know,
Exactly.
or if I'm getting the hits, because it's so powerful for someone to be like, oh my gosh, I remember this. Like, this is it. This is what happened. And being able to just allow that energy to come up because it is ready to go. And then using the different tools, like I use one of the tools I use, it's called a rapid recode. So again, it's like working with the higher self, because the way I see the higher self is this field of energy that contains all the information that we need to know, anything from past lives, anything from our ancestors, anything in relation to like what's stored in our field, what's stored in our body, what pathogens we have going on. We can actually use different, intuitive things such as muscle testing, or just getting that information based on like sensations or whatever is coming up. And so actually working with God and with the higher self to do what's called a rewiring. So even we can actually, at times not linear, which it's not, we can actually go back to those specific events, whether we're inserting ourselves into them or being an observer, and we can do what I refer to as a change history. And so we can actually re-experience that event the way that we've gained the wisdom now. So in that moment, maybe we didn't have those tools and we chose to experience that because our soul wanted to experience that type of dense energy. And it could have been extremely traumatic and painful. But now that we have the wisdom and it's time to let it go and release it, we can go back and we can actually change the whole dynamic of the event and rewire the brain, rewire the whole field, and let go of that dense energy so that pain simply turns to wisdom, and that we don't have to be carrying around the
so good.
pattern and the pain points anymore.
Yeah, that's so good. It's got so much, it's got beautiful gems, man, to teach you, especially the dark stuff, if you're willing to learn. If not, you're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over. But if you'll get the message, like I mentioned my book, Spirit Realm, and angels and demons and those things. And we look at angels as the good guys and demons as the bad guys, right? The word angel just simply means a messenger. So we have spirits and we have people and we have scenarios or essences in our lives that are sent, I believe, from the Creator to bring us a message. And the message could be, hey, leave that job. It served you. It's gone. The reason you feel disgruntled, the reason you're being cynical is because you're not supposed to be. So there was like this essence that's here. Okay, now I'm cynical. Okay, whatever. I'll do this, whatever. And you start acting a certain type of way. But it's because that angel, that essence, the idea, whatever you want to call it, there's so many names for it. It brings a personification and makes you feel a certain type of way. And we look at them, we only want the good things. We only want the angels. We only want fun times, but it's the dark times. It's the demons who really carry like the valuable life lessons, and they have a role. And again, like the idea of casting out a demon. Listen, that demon was sent to teach you a lesson. The demons are angels too. They carry a message with them. Like they have access to your life because of the things you're doing, because of the unhealed trauma. You heal the trauma, the demon's gone. He doesn't have a home anymore. So instead of casting it out or staying away from situations that trigger your demons, it's like, hold on, let me find out why it's here. Oh, it's here because I'm unhealed of this, because I'm afraid of death. Whatever it is, there's so much stuff that comes up that the darkness hides in. But once we expose the darkness unto the light, it has no more place. So it's this beautiful journey of doing the inner work and finding the triggers, like you said. Like, it's a good thing. The triggers are here to serve you because they act as an open wound. And if I had an open wound and I'm cut and I'm bleeding and somebody touches it, I'm going to jump. Ah, man, oh, you're not healed. Let me heal you. Let me heal that. The trigger is good. It's your reflexes because it hurts. So we can get that wound healed. And the next time we're in a similar situation or a person shows up in your life that reminds you of somebody who caused you trauma, you don't start treating this random stranger like it's that person. Like, these are little things that we're doing subconsciously. We don't even know it, or unconsciously. And so that's why we champion this healing work, because if you don't heal the wounds that you're bleeding from, you'll begin to bleed on people who didn't cut you. And that's so true. And so we champion that inner work. And I know many people here listening in the audience do as well. And your work just lines right up with where we are right now. You mentioned what's going on in October and the transitions and the different energies and what's going on in the world. And we have to transmute it. If not, you will be a victim. If you're not a victor, you're a victim. And so being able to transmute that energy. Amanda, if people want to book a session with you, you got a bunch of stuff that you're bringing to the table, a bunch of free resources. You just put out a book with some friends that released today. Let people know where they can go to check out more about your work, book a session, and follow you on social media, all that good stuff. Go ahead and plug your stuff where people can get involved and follow your work.
Yeah. So my website, which is just my name, Amanda Monnier, there's some free resources on there. I have a blog, all the podcast episodes I archive them on there. And there's
what's the name of the podcast again?
It's called, am I allowed to say cuss words on here? It's called Up Leveled as Fuck.
Not just a little bit, a lot of it.
A lot of it. You gotta have the duality. I got a very feminine side, and I also gotta, let's
feisty.
Go get them.
Yeah. You mean business. It's just,
exactly.
Business.
I actually love the synchronicity of what you just pointed out too about the light and the dark, because it's so interesting, because in the last year, I was so triggered by like the stuff going on in like the darkness that has come up. I'm like, I've actually come to this place where I'm like, what if it's not good or bad? And it's such an interesting place to be. I'm like, what? Like, cause I was like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. It's just such an interesting place and I had to point out, cause I just love the synchronicities, because in the last couple of weeks, it's what's been shown to me too. I'm like, what if this is actually here to just exponentially and rapidly raise the consciousness of the planet and to heal these wounds at such a fast pace? And I'm like, okay, if I can sit back and just be neutral to this and, still have I can observe it. And I still, consider myself like someone who is here to bring light and love to the planet and to, do what I can for the people that are ready to hear it, my message. But like, what if this is just doesn't have to be a bad thing that's happening? What if it can just be? And then it's for, because I know that it's activating a lot of people, and it's also activating the truth within a lot of people. So I just want to point that out, because it is super powerful, and it's just a powerful shift, because it doesn't give the power. It doesn't allow us to give the power to that thing anymore when we're like, not like attached to like what it's doing. We're just kind of like, okay, I don't agree with it, but okay, like I'm gonna, do what I can to still bring like, the beautiful things I'm here to bring to the world.
Heck yeah, that's what it's about. I got one last question for you, just some more fun woo-woo before we go. Working with masters, you mentioned your higher self and God and things like that. Do you work with angels? Do you work with spirit guides, ancestors, ascended masters, and things like that? We love the fun woo-woo stuff here. Do you, or ET races on off-world or guiding you, or maybe a little bit of all of it? It's just hard to articulate. So any of that, do you deal with any of that in your practice?
So in my own practice, yes and no. So I have really, really just been guided to tap into my higher self and God, my own source connection, and really just go within as of recently. In sessions, it's whatever, because I always set this like sacred space. So whatever beings that are, benevolent beings of the highest level want to come through for that person, then that space is open. So oftentimes like my clients, and instead of me doing it, like I'll be like, okay, well, what do they have to say? Because it's like really them getting acquainted with their own guides and their own connection. And I found it to be very powerful to allow that space for them, or whatever's meant for them to come through. I definitely identify with star seeds. There's nothing that someone could tell me and say at this point that I'd be like, okay, that's weird. There's really nothing.
I know, right? I know. I do this for a living, and I talk to some far out people, and my thing is like, I hope just one of them are telling me the truth. Like, they're like, yeah, how are you going to believe that? Like, I'm a skeptic. I think I have a BS detector, but it's allowed me to experience some far out stuff. But when it comes to talking to so many people, like if one of them are telling me the truth, then it makes it so much more fun. It makes it so much more worth it,
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And it's just one of those things where I even came to the realization the other day, I'm like, gosh, I don't know anything anymore. And I'm like, I can be fine saying that, like all the things I thought, like with everything that's come through, like I haven't even fully integrated. Like, I'm like, okay, God, like what's next? Because it's just, things are moving so rapidly, and where we're going, it's like, maybe my role is going to be entirely different, and I'm okay with that. But where I am right now is fine. It's good. It's where I'm supposed to be. But it's like, I don't know exactly how that's going to look. I know I can feel it. It feels great. So I'm going to go with that.
I think that's what qualifies you to be used as a healer, is you don't have it all figured out and you're still learning and you're open. Because if not, then you would go into those sessions and say, yes, I only work with Qui-Gon or whoever, I only work with these spirits, and anything that
Ninja Turtles or something.
I mean, you had it all figured out, but we're students. A real truth seeker, somebody who is in this energy, you're being taught. There's new feelings, new emotions, new realms and dimensions to experience. So to think that you've got it figured out, you got to be teachable. And that's one thing that I look for in somebody that I try to connect with or even learn from, is like, hold on. Are they a know-it-all, or are they still on the journey of knowing, and they wear that authenticity, but they're open. It's okay to say I don't know, and we're experiencing it together. I get messages all the time from people like, TruthSeekah, I woke up in the middle of the night and there was just being in my room. What was it? It looked like this. And I would think that those know-it-alls would be like, well, that was a demon. You need to get him out, So
you must have a 12-hour session on extracting.
Yeah, exactly. Put some salt around your bed and he'll never come back. Like, I don't know. It's like, you got to ask it. He came to you. Like, he came to you. It didn't come to me. I don't know what it is. I could tell you it could be this. It's probably that, but it also could be this. Be careful. It's up to you. Do you want to go deeper? Say hello. Tell it to leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I do. So, but I think those other people were quick to. I had one guy on here years ago when I was first getting started, and I told him about an encounter I had with Jesus. It was so beautiful, and just my vision was invaded with light, and my body with bliss, and I was shaking and vibrating. Energy was all over me. I was screaming at the top of my lungs in somebody's house with energy. They were holding my hands and they could feel it. It felt so good, so cleansing, so euphoric that they didn't want to let my hands go. But it was painful too, because it was beautiful, but it was also like this heartache for humanity and love for humanity. And it was awesome. And I remember sharing that story with a guy on here. I look for little places where we can relate and, try to go down rabbit holes and stuff. And he was like, nope, that wasn't Jesus. That was an alien. I'm like, I didn't like try to defend myself. I was, okay, that's cool. It's like, he's telling me like, that was not Jesus, brother. That was an alien. Jesus is not real. Okay. Next question, sir. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they're like, why didn't you stand up for what you believe in? Listen, the truth doesn't need anybody to stand up for it. Yeah. It is what it is, and it is what you say it is.
Yeah.
And
all of our truth is different. And I think intention is so powerful too, because like, where is our intention when we're showing up? Like, I do my absolute best for my intention to be all about love. And like, it's like intention's just so powerful as well. Like with whatever we're doing, when we're doing it with the intention of like that purity, love, it changes the the energy of what we're doing.
Yep. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can do the right thing, but for the wrong reason, energetically, it's going to be out of alignment. You can do the wrong thing, but you mean well, and you're A-okay. The karma, the energy that comes with that is, yeah, you'll learn how to do the right things, but your intention, all of these things we've been talking about, they're tools, prayer, meditation, attunements, everything is a tool when you really look at it. The words that we're podcasting, I do music, like they're tools. You can use them for good or for bad. What I mean by good or bad, for harm or to bring beauty, health, and enlightenment. And so that's what makes something good or bad, is the intention. Listen, I'm going to use this to try to help. I'm going to use this to try to make your walk a little bit easier in life. And so intention is everything. It is. And that's why the scripture says, don't judge by the outer appearance, but judge according to the heart. And that's how God judges us. He doesn't look at us for we mess up and say, what is the intentions of the heart? What did you mean? Because I can see it. And us as empaths, you mentioned empaths and starseeds, and we're picking up on other people's energy. We can pick up and know intentions. You meet somebody for the first time or walk past them in Walmart, wow, that was a load. And if you're not careful, you take it with you. So we're trying to balance and navigate through all of these energies and modalities and stuff. And that's why this work that you're bringing to the table is so important. And I commend you for it, for showing up.
Appreciate it. Likewise. I'm like, I need to go check out your book. When you were talking about, I heard the little.
Oh yeah. Jordan Maxwell. Yeah. For sure. Well, Amanda, thanks for coming on. Again, plug that website one more time before we go, just so people can go check it out.
Monnier, Monnier.com. And I'm also open to, if you are going through anything, you have any questions, anything resonated, like, drop me an email, or like Instagram, same thing, my first and last name. I'm more than happy to do what I can to help you navigate these times, and just know that I do feel it's going to lighten up. So
yeah, I mean, just the very smallest point of just letting people know that they're not alone. We've heard that for years. You're not alone, man. Just that it does so much for people to understand that they're not crazy, that they're feeling energy, that they're having this process, and beings are showing up in their room. Listen, you're not alone. I have them too. You know what I'm saying? So let's get clear on it. So thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again, Amanda. I really enjoyed our talk, and I'm down to do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. You have a great day, and congratulations on the book, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Many blessings. Bye-bye. Amanda Monnier, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out her work. Really cool. Like, there's so much that we have in common, and so much that stuff that I've been going through lately that we've been teaching, even in our classes and stuff like that she just articulated a lot of that stuff. So you're in the right place when she mentioned synchronicities, things, patterns, repetitive signs, symbols, patterns that just keep showing up, numbers. It lets you know that you're on the right path. And so much of what she's said, her journey, what she's been through, what she's going through, resonates with me, and I know it resonates with you. No man is an island. We're not going through this by ourselves. You are not alone. And if you think that, if you feel that way, you're deceived on anything. There's nothing new under the sun. Somebody out here has been through something similar that can help you, that can coach you through it. Most likely they wrote a book on it. Most likely there's a book out there about what you're going through. Me, I've been spending a lot of time on my Christian devotional website that me and my wife have been building, going through the scriptures and finding scriptures about stuff that we're going through. And you can read it, and it brings hope to you. It brings life to you. You find it articulated by somebody else. Wow, the very things that I'm going through. Why do you think people resonate with my music? I'm not some ascended dude that, no, I'm for the people. I'm with the people. We may be a little bit different. We may be a peculiar people, as the Bible says. We're a little bit different. We're a little strange. We go towards the people that your parents warn you about. Those are our friends. We're in company with those people, the people that Christ was with, and he's one of them. So Your vibe attracts your tribe. That's who we are. Nothing, like she said, like nothing scares you anymore. There was a time where things scared you. Terms. Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. Why would you say that? You know, and I use those terms on purpose. You know, I named my album White Magic. That's a beautiful title for me, what it means to me, but for many people that title scared them, and they unfriended me, and they'll never listen to the album. The album is about remembering who we were in Christ before the foundations of the world, who we were before we incarnated here, and in adoration to Christ and all of that. But because of terminology and symbolism and things that trigger people, they'll never get to experience it. And I understand that. There's a lot of Christian albums you can experience. I'm for the ones that you guys have looked over, the ones that you guys have pushed to the side and say, stay away from those people. Watch out for the weirdos, girls. We are the weirdos, mister. That's who this album is for. And make sure you check it out. Just came out, getting really good reviews. I'm glad that it's out, and for such a time as this, for sure. And so make sure you check it out. It's on all streaming platforms, anywhere that you can find music, anywhere that you listen to music. Make sure that you go and check it out. But lot going on. Like I said, we got the upcoming Reset, Refresh, and Renew retreat coming up November the 20th. The album's out, not promoting that anymore, moving on to some other things. And I do plan on doing some more teachings and finishing up some stuff that I started, more stuff about addressing in the Bible, as far as like what people would call a cult or new age, giving you scripture references and proof. I mean, that's what works, you know, for what I bring to the table. Like, as far as demystifying those things that seem scary or taboo, I take that away. And so I do plan on making more of that content, those videos that are definitely my go-to videos on YouTube and Google and everything. So I'm going to keep building more of that stuff. A lot of that stuff is even in my book. I'm going to turn that into videos as well. For those of you who want, the link has been messed up, but we did get it back going yesterday. I had to re-sign up. But for those of you who want to download my audiobook for free, the link is in the description, but you can go to audibletrial.com/TruthSeekah, and you can actually download my book, the audio version, for free. You have to sign up, but you don't have to pay anything. You can sign up, get the book, and cancel, and you get it for free. So you can hear me reading it to you for 4.5 hours. For those of you who are interested, we're going to go to a quick commercial. And then when we get back, I'll be taking your questions. If anybody has any questions or comments here in the chat, and we'll be back for final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, after this. Wow. So the throne room meditation, man. This was just like a new level for me of creating encounter. Really, the process behind it is going in for myself, having an encounter with the Lord, tapping into the Spirit and getting in His presence, and really just petitioning the Father's heart and saying, God, what would you say to them? If I'm bringing these people with me here, if they're doing this guided meditation and we're going through this journey, we're having fun, we're seeing things, we're experiencing new feelings and emotions and sensations, what would you say to them? So it's channeling the Father's heart and relating it back to the people. So man, it's just a beautiful encounter. And I remember when I wrote the first one, I was so excited about it. And it was just God speaking to my heart. I was able to channel the Father's heart. And I would read the script to people because I was just so excited while I was working on it. And every time that I would just read the script, the presence of God would just invade me. And I just burst into tears and I couldn't even read it. I'm just like, let me copy and paste it and send it to you. But every time I listen to it, I'm immediately translated back into the throne room of God. And everything's good there. That's the place where everything is okay. Where in the scriptures it says that we are to hide under the shadow of the Almighty. This is the throne room of God. This is the place that we can encounter for ourselves, but this is also a place in which we dwell. So a part of us is always there, and we have access to that. Now, there's people who have never encountered this before in their life, and it's a totally new experience for them. And almost every time I get a testimony back from someone, they just say how God wrecked their lives, that they didn't know what they were getting into. The next thing they know, they're in the presence of God, wrapped up in His glory. He's communicating His love to them, and it just totally wrecks their lives. So make sure you check out the Throne Room guided meditation, visualization that I brought to the table.
There are things that go bump in the night. Pull up a chair. Don't be scared, for you have many friends unaware on the TruthSeekah Podcast.
TruthSeekah Podcast.
TruthSeekah.
Self-centered.
He seems like a nice guy.
You're listening to the TruthSeekah Podcast. Now, back to the show.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. If anybody has any questions or comments, before I go, I like to open myself up and make myself available to answer any questions that you have about anything. Go ahead and post them in the comment section, and I'll try to get to them for a few minutes here at the end. One of my producers here, Richie, brother, you with me?
Bless. Hello.
Hey, man. Inner work, dealing with your demons, making friends with them. What's your take and your experience on that?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, I want to take a second and express some gratitude to Amanda. She had some really awesome heavy lifting in the conversation. She's bringing up ideas and presenting some concepts as though they're weightless. And I know sometimes to distill back to the message behind the story itself, some of those truths took me a while to learn. So I think a lot of it's integrating ownership and realizing, again, you're empowered to be making those choices.
Yeah.
But I definitely resonated with what you mentioned before, that sometimes there's a light bringer, someone who's bringing you a message that's not exactly a comfortable message. And then something maybe detrimental happens that actually turns out to be a good thing. So I'd say a lot of it's being able to slow down and walk with an open heart and open mind.
Yep. Being able to judge all things righteously. Don't judge anything before its appointed time is what the scripture says. And most of the time, those uncomfortable feelings, they get judged early. Because when they're happening, most of the time we want to be out of them, especially when I would say we were naive to the presence of that thing. But once you become, hold on, universe is trying to teach me something. God is trying to teach me something here. Once you can even have that thought, once you can even have that thought, like, it changes everything, because you're not a victim, because you don't freak out anymore. You're like, wait, hold on, something's going on. This always happens before an upgrade in the spirit realm. This always happens before some type of breakthrough. Like I mentioned the Bible, you can go back and look at everybody's story. The patriarchs of the Old Testament, they were thrown in prison, they were locked up, they were in the lion's den before an encounter happened. You know, there was always this point of pain that they go to, but then a breakthrough happened. But it only happened with trust and obedience to the call that was upon their life. And it's the same way for us, man. But we just gotta wait. They could freak out, like Daniel in the lion's den and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire. Like, what if they would have freaked out and doubted? They wouldn't be here. But the message of that story is, listen, sit with it. Wait, hold on. There's always a way out. It's like MacGyver. He got himself in all these situations, being like, hold on, I'm going to take these 2 quarters and rub them together and start a fire. It's like, what? We take this paper clip and a bag of Cheetos and make a parachute. What? Like, come on, man. He made something out of nothing. And that's really what all of this is gearing us up to do.
Right. I'm thinking like a TV remote wrapped around a magazine with a paper clip, and I got a laser. You can blast through the wall. And I definitely get it in the sense that if we think from like the limited self, from the body self, from the physical plane, this means that. And that happened. So therefore I interpret that as meaning this, rather than checking in and thinking like the producer, like the writer, like the people who are like controlling MacGyver's adventure. And like, we're all running our own life. We are the storytellers and the authors. Definitely.
Yeah. Even with that, like, I'm reminded of the story again of David when he was a shepherd and he was going to go fight Goliath, the giant. You know, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but like they gave him tools to use. They gave him a sword and armor and a helmet, but it was too big. It was clunky. So, hey, use these and it'll help you fight the giant. He said, no, man, I've got a slingshot and a stone. And I'm going to use this because I'm really good with it. And I believe in what I already have. Let me use this, because if I go in there sling it, I'm not skilled in swordsmanship. I'm skilled in putting this rock wherever I want it. I can hit any target because I've been training with it my whole life, you know. And so those tools you already have within you, and those paper clips that are sitting around, those remote controls that are sitting around, put two and two together, boom, we got something. We got an old microphone and a bad internet connection, but guess what? We got a podcast. You know what I'm saying? Put that's alchemy. Let me use this stuff that I have. And that's biblical principle, man, from Genesis to Revelation, that if you use what you have and you're faithful with it, more will be given to you. And if we can understand that with our trials and tribulations and with our love and with our everything, that if we're faithful with those emotions and those situations, then more will be added to us that we can carry. Everyone knows that God doesn't put more on you than you can carry at a time. But once you understand, when that stuff comes upon you, you give it to God. You give that weight. If you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, you'd never make it. But we have helpers. We have a friend. We have an advocate. We have somebody here that is here to help. And so everybody, not just Christians, like God is for the broken. He's for the weary traveler. And we got to understand that. And that's just one breath, one prayer, one thought away.
Yes and amen.
Yes and amen. One thing she was talking about that, like going back and reliving those situations and changing the outcome, whether you're the observer or whether you're going back to relive those things. Like we hear a lot about going back to the point of pain, finding out where it came from and going back there. And it's controversial. Some people say, no, you don't have to relive it. Let me just speak to what's happening and I'll go there for you. I'll speak to it for you. You don't have to relive it. So there's definitely some controversy when it comes to that. But for me, it was when I went through my deliverance or whatever, it was a Christian ministry that did it. And it was all the same tools, all of this stuff. It's just what we call it. We have different names, but took me back to those places in my life that, you know, there was a lot of hurt and there were things that I was resentful for. And I was a broken kid that stayed broken there. And I was a broken adult that was a channel to that broken kid. And they took me to those places, and when I was able to see Christ in it, okay, it was like, where's Jesus here? What would he say? What would Jesus do? And it was like a way of like the brain having new synapses. When I think about that, I don't look at it as being scared and broken and defenseless. I look at it like he was there with me the whole time, and he made sure that I'm still here, and I was able to find healing from it. But the idea of being able to go back in time, in a timeline, and change it like it never happened. I remember thinking of like Jesus being a time traveler. Like he's able to go into your past and move things around, and whether it's forgiveness or like it never happened. Like you never did the forgiveness. He says, I'll remember your sins no more. Listen, I remember my sins every day. It plagues me. It haunts me. Every time I put my head on my pillow, I remember that stuff. He said, no, I'll remember your sins no more. I'll throw them as far as the east is from the west. You'll be justified. This term of justification by grace. You didn't earn it. You didn't do nothing. It wouldn't be grace. By grace through faith, because you believe it, because I spoke it to you and you resonated with it. By grace through faith, you're now justified. We're justified. Break it down. Just if I'd never done it. Just if I'd never been in that situation, if I've never told that lie, if I never broke the cookie jar, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever it was in that place that you were broken in, man, this is the power that we have, and the power of the creative mind and connecting with the divine.
Definitely. And for another perspective on that same idea, instead of like maybe a time traveler, could see like a cosmic janitor. In some ways, there's like a Christos Christ spirit that's jumping between all the hallways and can always jump between all the different rooms, is always there at the right time. But none of it says like you gotta treat them a certain way. I remember a couple times I see somebody's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. When I turn and I look, could be at a store, could be at a mall, and somebody's aura, I got a really heavy visual feed of auras. I don't share it too much, but I see people as blobs of color more than as people. Surprise, surprise for people who know how I talk. Somebody just, they're glowing with white. I'm getting tingles. I don't know how old they are. I don't know what ethnicity they're from, anything about, and then like for the rest of that time, it's like, cool. I'm around somebody else's gender. Yeah, I'm around somebody else who gets those memos from the other side. I don't even have to interact with them, don't even have to make eye contact. It's just that vibe, that kind of feeling in tribe. And when I feel in dissonance in myself, usually that's because I'm pushing that form away. And so the same thing is like, wait, it's dark. So if I be the light and I become the light, that's different than like trying to find it or hold it or push it into a dark space. So many shouts for the recent album drops, by the way, both Emotions and White Magic. They're dualies for my favorite right now. But I'd say that a lot of it has to do with being able to step out of the experience, because I could easily be at like Petco and be like, oh, that person just feels angelic, and like be stunned, like forget what I'm doing and totally fall out of like, oh, I got to get cat food. Oh, I got to get some of this. Oh, I got to get treats for my friend's dogs. Like being in that space means, oh, they're a part of me. And so I'll be driving and somebody, oh, well, that was nice. They made space for me to drive. I bet Jesus is their co-pilot. I bet he's like, yo, give them a little space. Just move. And they might not even know. They might have to get an early exit.
Man, look, when I drove early in the mornings years ago as a truck driver, it would be storming. I mean, I'd be on the interstate. It's storming at like 5:30 in the morning, and vehicles are cutting me off because I'm slowing down. And they just whip around you and go, okay, drive like that you want to. 5 miles up the road, guess where they are? In the ditch.
Yeah.
I pass them up. Slow and steady wins the race. The turtle in the hare. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on now. Everything happens for a reason. That person, I could have got mad. I can't believe you cut me off. Hey, you need to be careful. Slow down. Like, not for me, but for your own sake. And, you know, everything comes back to full circle, you know, of cause and effect. And even if it doesn't, in my head, it works better. It works better to be late and be like, you know what, listen, I may have, again, traffic. I may have avoided a car accident, you know, if I'm stuck in traffic, or we get somewhere late. And it's like, versus like fretting and, man, we're supposed to be there at this time. And then now your energy's all off. It's like, listen, I'm where I'm supposed to be at every given moment.
In some ways that's like, there's a term biphasic, which is both phases of the brain, and you can get biphasic crosstalk. And so people get one side of the brain connecting to the other side of the brain. And I get that a lot when people are there-thenning. Like we're talking about, like, yeah, but then I gotta do something there. When I get here and they're taking the present moment and they're accelerated to another place far away and another time that's not now a clock. So the same thing when I see people driving or people moving or people running, I gotta get there. It's like you are there. The journey is the part of the destination, as taboo or cliche as that is. But like no matter where you get, you're going somewhere next.
Yeah. And those people who drive like that on the interstate, and maybe you're one of them, you know, maybe there's adrenaline rush. I don't know. But people who drive like that, I try to like say like, what is it serving you? And I'll count. Like I'll stay at my speed, and they'll whip through everybody. It could be a motorbike that comes up beside you, or even drives off the road on the interstate to open up. Bro, it looks like you're way up there. You're 10 seconds ahead of me, bro. Like, even though you're way, like in 10 seconds, I'm going to be where you did that weird maneuver that could have caused an accident. Right. 10 seconds, bro. 20 seconds, a minute. Like, how much time are you really saving by, you know, endangering your life and the lives of others? But it's like, it ain't worth it. Drive the speed limit. Like my buddy Phil, Eb the Menace Ninth, says, rather arrive alive than arrive on time. Arrive alive, right? Yeah. Be in the moment. Don't get that's anxiety, man, you know?
For sure. And I think some of that's the present moment can be uncomfortable. Some people like a low resolution. Like, let's say you got a new Xbox, you plug it into old credit TV, and they're big pixels and you can't really see stuff. You got one of those fancy new computer, but a really old like tube screen. It's the resolution and the inner work. Taking the time to go within, to close yourself in that mental space, prayer closet physically or energetically, astrally, being able to expand that resolution, tease out those dead pixels, realize, hey, I've been super upset about this thing for a while. Is there really something there, or am I just upset for the fascination of this emotional attachment? So I'd say it's people who are working through their inner space, sharing their resolution. Because then when they talk, you're like, damn, you're in 4K. Like, as you talk, I can tell there's more than you're saying. Versus people who, they know it all, and their words have like a parameter. And if it's not within the things that they're expertise on, it doesn't exist. And like, I kind of understand that sort of, if you're protecting young people from like sticking their fingers in an electrical socket, or teaching somebody how to work with wood or weld metal, that makes sense. But on a daily process, like welding with spirit, carving yourself into who you really need to be, that's a gentler process.
Yep. Exactly, man. But yeah, there's parameters, there's teachings, there's etiquette. I call it etiquette. Do's and don'ts.
Good word, for sure.
So there's spiritual etiquette, there's, religious etiquette, there's relationship etiquette, there's etiquette with everything. There's do's and don'ts, and there's nuance in learning. But even that is subjective, though. You know what I'm saying? Because you did it and got hurt. This other person did it and flourished. You know what I'm saying? So what's the truth?
For sure. I think if you're going to take the word etiquette, like you can look at, sometimes people go to etiquette school and etiquette training where you got 15 forks on one side and 3 or 5 different knives and 2 or 3 cups and plates. But I'm a big focus on like an online digital etiquette. If I meet somebody in capital letters, hey, Richie, how's it going today? It's like, whoa, bro, like your etiquette, like you could be excited to see me and happy and all that. But like, if we were on a call, would you be shouting? Because I might have to like take a second. So the etiquette, I think spiritually, you can feel people's vibe when they enter the room. Sometimes like a hair before, like something's coming, a little tea like, and then all of a sudden somebody walks in the room or something happens, something breaks. And it's like, okay, was I ready for this? And that readiness, even not being ready, is a form of ready. Like sometimes you're not supposed to be ready. So you can get caught flat-footed. So you can go, what is that? So you can get that upgrade.
Yeah. Those are amazing moments. They're few and far between. I'm not like always. It's usually when something special, something big needs my attention. I'll say that. When I'm supposed to know, we'll say that. And I don't think it's every time I'm around a person I go, oh, wow, you're loud, man. That kind of stuff. And let me address it. Let me speak to it. Like I get those impressions when it's like, hey, I've been training you for this. I'm going to let you feel what they're going through. Here's your time to shine, son. Like that's really what happens in my head with the creator. And, those times are special though, when you feel the energy. But it could just be for decisions. It does happen in subtle ways too. But I mean that big wave or whatever, like you're talking about, because in subtle ways, like there's personas. We learn people. We got to make sure we're not reading into that persona just because they remind us of so-and-so. There's some
person must be so grumpy. This person's such an angry person. It's like, no, man, that's just the day that my tires got slashed. I'm not actually a mad person. Just something happened where that was a day where there was more of this emotional charge rather than pigeonholing. For sure. This person's on some crazy punk shit. They're reading this crazy book that I don't even heard. Okay. Yeah. Let them explore. Yeah. If you're comfortable in your faith and you're comfortable in them exploring other things, to me, that's a big telltale when people got all the answers or they tell me what's immediately wrong. Well, where did that authority come from, right?
Podcast, man. I get people who tap in at different points. Dude, you're interviewing energy healing about Reiki and about this. Why are you looking into those things? Why are you? And I got people who attack me. Your podcasters doing this or doing that. It's like, why don't you look? I said, I got Christian episodes. Listen to the pastor episodes. Listen to the Bible episodes. Listen to the ones that resonate with you. I talk to all people. I don't judge. I don't, you don't have to meet a certain qualification.
I think part of that also is you're talking to all sorts of people in a consistent way. It's not like you're putting all this stuff on and putting on it. Yes, now you're talking about the Arcturians and and then you're like, all right, now we're talking about why communion is more, and like you're not like making all these shape-shifting forms. You're consistent and you're you. So the people who are grounded in themselves, right? The people who are grounded in themselves see you being you and realize it's okay to be them because you're oak, like you're a tree. You're so okay. It's just you're growing and creating acorns and little pieces where other forests grow out of it. So gratitude and many thanks. Reading from the chat, you see for sure. And Flying Penguin says that they are glad that you love to talk to all the people. And I think that's awesome because if you had stronger blinders up, I think it would really limit the expression that you have of yourself. So continue gratitude for that.
For sure. Yeah, it works for me. It doesn't work for everyone though. You know what I'm saying? Because they have those blinders up. They have that tunnel vision. There's that I can't go on your podcast. And I've invited people, they won't come on here and talk to me because they don't want to be seen, with someone who does talk to those people or whatever it is in your head that I represent. And I guess what I mean by that, because of all of those podcasts, what is it in your head that I represent? And whether it's an Arcturian episode or it's about meditating on the beauty and bliss of Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like, which one is you? Well, can both of them be you? Or even asking people questions. And this is for conversation. One guy, he's in my inbox right now. He's just like, I can't believe you're asking these people about Reiki. Don't you know what Reiki is? Dude, yes, I have a preconceived notion. I have an idea and a judgment, but I want to hear their idea. I'm not asking you because I want to know, hey, tell me what channeling is. Like, as if I'm trying to, whatever they say is gospel, whatever they say is gonna be, just like what's really happening, it's gonna be held up against everything that I've experienced, the other people I've talked to, the Bible says, what the Bhagavad Gita said, right? We're gonna look at all of this information, and whatever sticks, whatever we throw at the wall, and if it sticks, it's gonna be probably brought up in the next conversation. Even the Christian, hey man, what do you think about these things? Why do you think I don't bring it up to the Christians? Because they're gonna vomit on most of those things that some of you guys hold really close to your heart and beautiful, and I wouldn't want them to do that.
Fair, and that's a level of respect for both and all parties involved. Part of it I notice is that that's more of a Gnostic idea. You're throwing something to the wall and you're seeing if it sticks. You're bringing up a concept, and if it preserves itself, if it lasts the test of time, that means there's more there to go back into. I know a lot of individuals who hide in different kinds of religious contexts of all denominations to say, we only talk about what we know. And as soon as it gets out of what we know, no, we can only talk about what we know. And so there is a level of self-inflicted limitation that I think is important for growth. But once you reach a linchpin, you need people around that encourage your unlimited self. Because if you don't have those conversations with people who have different degrees, and you don't have your own personal experience of what it's like to talking to somebody who's like neck deep in Islam versus somebody who's crown deep in atheist and they've never had any spiritual things, they just believe like synchronicity or something to that effect. By experiencing this authentically as yourself and having your beliefs challenged and learning, okay, this person thinks this and this person thinks that, is the difference between you saying, these are the rules of life. This is TruthSeekah's master manual mode for how everything works. Everything else is poppycock. Like, there's a lot of individuals who don't realize how silly that is. Because if you tried to roll out a publication or a text, you, my friend, where you said that this is the end all be all, what you'd be doing is cutting off all these multiple dimensions that you've painstakingly taken the time to open up. So now it's like a huge energy networking hub where people can show up and be their truest selves and use the experience with you to help notice if their heart is driving or if their brain is driving. Because you're being yourself so authentically. Now you've become, what's it called? Tare, T-A-R-E, a tare, like a weight for maintaining a scale. So I could see you in a different realm, hanging out with some of the deities. You're doing your human thing. You're on the ascended path, but you showing up. And that's like more than 3/4 of the quest, I think, is just showing up. So
again, don't judge anything before it's appointed time. Like, wouldn't that be, how would, like, if you went to if you were caught up in a scandal and went to court, before you walked in, oh man, you get judged before you even get to tell your story? Like, that's weird. And that's what people are doing. They're judging things that they're afraid of. They're judging by appearance. They're not judging according to the heart. And you find out why they're doing that is because it triggers them. And it helps them hurry. And that's a hurry up and compartmentalize. It's not just a
get back to the thingy. Yep.
I mean, that's an instant. Like, we got to compartmentalize because this guy's a threat. Like, this expression is a threat, so I have to compartmentalize you quick. Like, if God did that to you, if the judge did that to you, it wouldn't be fair. And so it's not fair when we do that to other people as well. At least hear their story, and then if you don't agree with them and it goes against your belief, well, at least you showed some long suffering. But that triggers people, and that's what I was thinking about even today, and just throwing myself in that conversation of, okay, triggers. You know, people trigger us. People get triggered, and I've done a good job. I got a lot of healing from stuff and personas and what people represent, and it brings out bad parts and stuff. There's a lot of healing that's happened in my life. Am I 100% healed? No, I don't think any of us are. I'd die if I was, right? I would go, I'd be done here, but I don't think my time here is done yet. So I'm wondering about the things that we think we're healed from. Maybe we've just learned to avoid those confrontations because we know we're going to get triggered. So I don't talk to atheists anymore. I don't talk to New Agers because I'm going to get triggered, and I'm going to tell you the truth about it. in some way like, oh, I'm healed from it. No, because if that conversation comes up, your heartbeat starts racing. You know, it reminds you of the person you used to be. And I get that way sometimes. So I'm like, am I healed, or have I just done a good job of like knowing my boundaries? Maybe I don't need to be healed. Maybe it is like, hey, I just know my boundaries. I'm not going to follow you down that damn rabbit hole because there's a part of me that's going to rip into you, you know?
Totally. See, Reiki is one of the ones that I'm really sharp on that, because I got into Reiki personally, like to continue with this experience. I got into Reiki probably right around 2002, 2003. I was trying to figure it out, what's going on, invisible energy healing, people having hands there. And I realized that some people, okay, you get attunement, you get 1, you get 2, you get 3, you get 3, you become a master, you're a living channel of this energy. And then it goes into different attitudes. There's holy fire, there's different kinds of disciplines, there's shamanic styles, but all of that has to do with how the person is operating. So I saw a lot of people come up and I'd mention, hey, Reiki's a thing. I'm like, okay. And they dial into it. Some of them build big businesses and have a lot of sessions and bring people through and have them handle their rainbow rose quartz and then set them down and have them lay on the table and wave the smoke and do the feather. And some people come out the other side feeling great. Other times, some of my family members got Reiki and they're like, I felt great the first time. The second time I feel like crap. So I'm never going back. And it's like, okay, well, maybe the healing path did more of it. But in that same way, if you're living as though you are accessing the dimensions where that's possible, they're there. But if you're living in a way that says, nope, I tweaked my back when I was a kid, it's going to be hurt for the rest of my life, and that's the truth. That's different than, okay, I'm going to try this stretch. I'm going to try this breathing posture. I'm going to try this and continue to expand that. Versus people like Harry Houdini. There's no such thing as spirit channelings. And then he made his life to kind of go against it. Yeah. In the same way I find
Randy and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Penn and Teller, the whole bit, like the idea when people are legitimately expressing this light, the rules around them are different. Kind of like if you hang out with a judge who's been the judge in that county for a long time, people treat them just a little differently. I'm not saying it's corruption and I'm not saying it's bad, but in the courthouse, he's your honor. But out of the courthouse, well, that's John. He lives down the block. He's been part of the community for a long time. He's in the PTA. He does a lot of things, but you know, you can't speed because then he's going to be the person who decides if you had like, oh, well, your wife is pregnant. Okay, well, we can kind of let 7 over kind of slide there versus like, dang it, Sam, this is your 5th speeding ticket. And I've been the judge over every single one. So you have to kind of learn it. What was that audio you played a couple weeks ago? Something like that, the courtroom?
Yeah, the courtroom thing with
who is that by?
Carmen, the old Christian guy.
Yeah.
Carmen,
man, that was
courtroom scenario.
Right. The courtroom scenario. Very good. That was just a beautiful piece, that kind of audio magic, that sort of prayer in motion, because I realized that everybody is all those offices and everybody is in all those places. So definitely I think it's become more about how you move through the interdimensional space, which means to me how you live your faith. There's a lot of people who can broadcast and advertise, yeah, I do this. Yeah, I read from this holy book. I do these practices. But then you feel them and you spend time around them and you're like, yeah, but it's not really helping. Like, I'm glad you do all this, but like, I don't feel it. Versus some people who, wow, I want to know, like, how do you pray? Something you're doing is working. How do you pray? Because apparently I'm praying wrong. If you're praying and I'm praying and you get this and I got that, like, can you give me some insight here? That's vulnerability.
That's good, man. I like, being open. And you mentioned people who twisted their back and now they're always going to be that way their whole life. They twisted their back when they were 7 and now they're always going to be that way. They never were in a realm or around a person that maybe told them different. Maybe they got catered to. There's a video of a dude. This black dude getting off a bus. It's off of a handicap bus, short bus with a handicap thing on it. And he gets off and his dad comes and there's an old black man and he helps the kid get off. And I say kid, he's probably 15 or something. Big kid.
Young man, yeah.
Yeah, and he helps him get off the bus and he pushes him in a wheelchair. And he pushes him all the way in the wheelchair to the steps. And then when the bus pulls off, kid gets out the wheelchair, just walks up the steps regularly and goes in. And it's like, that is a big reflection on a lot of brokenness, a lot of disability, disabled, dis-ease, if you will, in the body. It's the fact that we're familiar with it. It gives us attention. It's a comfort zone, whether it's your own inner thing that you're dealing with or literally a physical ailment that I'm just going to keep it, even though there's a way that I can, get healed from it or physical
move beyond. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Physical rehabilitation and all that.
Physical therapy. Yep.
I think of Jesus when you mention that, you know, and yes, he's a healer. You know, God is the great physician. He's channeling God. God is moving through him, uncapped, right? Well, maybe capped a little bit, because if it was uncapped, everyone would die from the beauty and majesty around him, right? When Jesus walked the earth. So he had to kind of conceal it. He had to conceal it, had to filter it. But I'm wondering, like, you know, those people that he healed, you know, maybe they were in this realm where nobody ever said, listen, you don't have to be like this your whole life. You don't have to be demon possessed your whole life. What? They banished me to this island because I was going to be demon possessed my whole. No. Right now, you're going to be free of it. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to lay hand. I'm going to speak to that thing that's ailing you. We're going to find out where it came from, and we're going to get rid of it. The guy goes off in his right mind and gets healed. And, you know, it's like, was that like a magical, did he pull Reiki?
For sure. See, in my mind,
maybe something like that helps.
Totally.
Release it. But it's like,
with that idea, if nobody mentioned to this person they could be healed, that simple conversation would be an expression of the fire energy of Ki through the healing web of love, which is Rei, and that communication would be the healing process. Kind of like if you have a little kid who stumbles and scrapes their knee, and it's not really wounded, it's just like a little bit of a rash, and the kid's like, and then you say, hey, you all right? You want to go play soccer? They're like, yeah, all right, cool. And at that moment, you did the sharing.
We started ignoring the kids when they did that. Because we're like, oh my God, Joshua. He's like even louder.
Right. Hyper focus.
Act like you didn't see it.
Huh?
And then they quit. Okay, he didn't see it.
Was it really worth it? Can I stick out this multi-dimension where I stub my toe on this thing and I'm pitching a tissy fit? Or do I have to shift to this dominant reality where this person says, hey, it's almost time for cake? Because I could tunnel into rabbit hole and scream about how the earth is this way and how my toe hurts so bad and this is the only thing. Or I could zoom out a little bit and be like, hey, it's almost dinner time. Yeah, my foot's a little sore, but I got to be aware of that. And that's how I can learn and change and grow, rather than saying that other people are the problem or the 3D dimensions, the issue, rather than realizing that it's the relationship with the creator that wants a little bit of love.
Going back to what I said earlier with Amanda, I feel like all of these timelines exist, and they're forks in the road. You got 1,000 forks in the road in front of you, and they each end up a year later, you'll be somewhere else, 10 years, another place. There's a version of you that exists that's homeless. There's a version of you that's a millionaire. There's versions out, any realm of possibilities exist. I feel like those people didn't know it. You know, again, Jesus dealing with the guy who got healed. It's like, listen, there is a version of that guy that exists that Jesus was just too busy that day.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, we're going to come back for you, man. And he never does. You know what I'm saying? That could have totally happened. There's
just like the time when people don't want to go to the gym, the day then they don't go versus the day that they do go and show up. And then there's something there helping them lift it.
And then the next day, and then the next day, and then they stay on the pattern of going. They don't go for a weekend, you know? But it's that what is possible. Most people are like, what you see is what you get. And this is the only thing, because it's a judgment that was placed on you from somebody else. He's a demon-possessed man. We're banishing him to this island with the rest of the crazy people. Just so happened, Jesus shows up and says, hold on, man. I had a vision of you and you wasn't here. However he wants to, he can make it up. He could lie to him. And I had a dream where you had a family, bro. And you had a job and you was speaking to people in your right mind. You wasn't biting yourself and cutting yourself. Do you want that? Yes. Okay, here it is. I'm giving it to you. And any Reiki, any drawing of symbol, that's icing on the cake, in my opinion. Yes, I don't think that pulled it or did it. It's like, listen, you need a bridge to that timeline of you that exists with a clear mind. And we're going to bring that into your now moment.
Absolutely. And it could be seen, you want to build a bridge. You don't start on one side and build a bridge. It's not going to work. You got to build from both sides and then meet at that point. So if you're doing the work, other parts will show up.
Or the end part. Remember, remember I mentioned that in the class recently is like writing a sermon. What is the end of the sermon? Well, we have an altar call where we minister to brokenhearted people. Well, we need to formulate a sermon. We got to do that. And the idea of Jesus having a vision of this person who is healed or a dream, that's the end. Okay, this person has a family. You're not going to have a family in this condition.
Totally. That's seeing a bridge.
The end in mind. So now we got to have that bridge to get you where you want to go. And the first step is, let's speak. You need to be in your right mind. Now there's other steps to take, right? You got to meet a woman. You got to go out. You know what I'm saying? I seen you. Maybe he won't be there that whole time, but it was a piece, a step in that bridge that it was a huge step. It was a Kickstarter. It's huge, but he got it, you know? And I say Jesus because listen, guys, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing. We're planting seeds. We're building bridges.
Yes. And amen.
The bridge to Terabithia.
I'm about it. For sure. Elves, fairies, gnomes, trolls. These are my homies. All these things. By the way, internet friends, all the people, screen names, trolls, all of them, they be my friends too. It's just a matter of some of my friends get to eat with me, and some of my friends, we only throw mud at each other. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue to share and build and get things moving forward. I think that what you're doing, TruthSeekah, is awesome because the story just for today, just when Amanda's coming on and talk about energy healing and talking about her life path and her life journey, not the level of confidence, not the level of candor and just kind of shooting off honesty, but the fact that she was willing to be herself as a character, to me is testament to the fact that you know yourself as a character and you're not like playing a part. I don't think like you're behind the scenes, putting on extra makeup before you're coming on this. No, you're just doing your things. You're just living. And it's something that I think is worth praise and worth gratitude for. So on behalf of everybody else who's streaming and watching and everybody who's participating, thank you.
That's it. What's understood ain't got to be explained. Enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with during the end of the final thoughts of the podcast. Richie, let people know where they can follow your stuff. You got a podcast up and stuff too, right?
Oh, dang. Gratitude. Yeah. I put together the Richie ZXY podcast, which is just a culmination of doing radio shows and interviews for more than probably 15 years. So I'm getting all these old pieces together and wiring them in, and it's not with camera. This is too many bells and whistles. I know what behind the scenes look like for this. You're driving a whole spaceship. Yeah. You're moving that Merkaba through multiple dimensions. So little bit of broadcasts. I'm just at richiezxy.com. Easier place to find me though is at themysticcircle.net. So plugging in there. Got a bunch of other people doing really fun stuff. That's how you get a hold of me.
That's it. Make sure you check them out. And for those of you who are fans of the music, if you've heard the song Channels, Richie is doing the narration and the what would we call it? Not bridges, but this is almost where I would usually put a sample. Richie is featured on the song. Channeling.
Appreciate the highlights. Thank you for the spots.
On sure. But people connect 2 and 2. They're like, I like to see that, because you know that they listen to the music. They're like, you're Richie, man. You're on that song. Oh man, I love. That's branding. If you was on here as your government name, it's like he sounds familiar, but I don't know. It's like, no, that's me, dude. Yep, that's me. And if you want me on your song, I'm available. It is what it is.
Send all contracts to Edward Smith at governmentmail.org. That will be how to find me. Richie ZXY. Bless.
All right, everybody. Peace and shalom. Thanks for hanging out. We will do this again very soon. I have another episode coming up after this at the top of the hour for those of you who are listening live. With I think it's Joe Lambert on his podcast. So if you Google him, I think we'll be live streaming on his page. He has a YouTube page, and we'll be on his channel. So for those of you who want to come, I watch the chat when I go on other people's shows, and I like to see the tribe coming over there following me. So for those of you who want to hang out in that chat, it'll be Joe Lambert on YouTube, and at the top of the hour, I think we're going live on that. But with that, I'm gonna say peace and shalom, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. White Magic is here. The retreats coming up. It's a limited space available for those of you who do want to get in on that. Super excited, super pumped. Myself and Illuminati Congo. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me. We also got a new FAQ available at the website. Go to truthseekah.com, click on FAQ, and there's a lot of questions that I get asked a lot. Formulating that, where can we hear the song that's on the intro of your podcast? Can you feature on my song? Are you available for this or that? Yeah, just go there, read the FAQ. It's something new that's on the website. With that being said, I'm going to say peace and shalom. We're going to do this again really soon. Love you guys. Peace.
Your way so much higher than mine. So much higher than mine.
hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah Podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.